What's up, everybody? Welcome to another eclectic edition of PWT Podcast. I am your infallible host, the infallible. I said it so infallible, I said it twice. Phil Marks. Yeah. And joining me today, back on the show, Alfred Konuwa, Pro Wrestling Bits, and Forbes, of course. Round of applause. Alfred Konuwa, how you doing, bro?
Great, man. I'm doing great. I was putting you over and it was on mute, so you're not going to get that again, you know.
That's how it usually happens when people do it.
No, I'm just saying that it's been great seeing you, on YouTube and Twitter and stuff like that, interacting with the likes of Eric Bischoff and all these big interviews you're getting. So it's great. And I've just been keeping myself busy. A lot of pro wrestling bits. Got a lot of bits coming out. One just came out this morning.
I know.
About our old friend Dave Meltzer and Tony Storm and Ryan May, which I'm sure we'll get into. But got some stuff on the Wyatt family, or the Wyatt Six, which I think has been great. That's going to be coming out Monday, I believe. And then some interviews and a lot of stuff is going to be coming down the pipeline for Pro Wrestling Bits. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, man, I see you're just uploading like every day and killing it, or like more or less every day. I didn't even get a chance to watch the one you put out today yet because you're just firing them off, and they've just been amazing. Speaking of your videos, we're just gonna jump into it today, guys. At Pro Wrestle Times, at Pro Wrestle Clips, and at This Is Nasty over on X, and at Pro Wrestling Bits. You guys already know, but anyways, though, one of the topics of your videos, or at least one of them, or maybe few of them, it's your tweets in general, Africa NXT. Now, just to dive right into it, right? You know, NXT, man, I don't know if we talked about this last time, really, because it's really, like, were you on last time was it before or after Sexy Red was on NXT?
Jeez, I know it was right around that time.
Yeah.
It might have been a little after, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, so either way, I'm just saying, like, they're leaning into that aspect of, I mean, Jaida Parker, Trick, you pointed out better than I can. You know what you do it better than I do.
Absolutely. This is the thing. They're leaning into black culture. You could say that.
That's what it is, and it's cool, man. Black culture is cool. We know. How do we know? Fucking society. Look at society in general. Look at the music everybody listens to. Look at the way people talk on Twitter. Look at everything, you know? So the way people dress, everything. It influences everything. And so Shawn Michaels and them go, well, let's lean into this, right? And it's paying off. The key demo, which is the key thing, right?
Which AEW Dynamite, and it was a loaded up Dynamite show where they're desperate for a new TV deal in a contract year. Regular, because I watch NXT every week, and there were Joe Hendry was on the show, I'll give you that. But it was your garden variety
guy.
Yeah, exactly. It was a garden variety NXT show, and it beat AEW Dynamite. And I can say, completely honest, like, I watch NXT every week, and for years, more times than not, Dynamite was just a better show. It had the bigger stars, it had more put into it, the bigger salaries on the roster. I would say for the past 6 months to a year, since the Carmelo Chick Williams feud, NXT just feels like the cooler show. It just feels like Black Twitter on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's the coolest wrestling show. I feel that way. I feel like NXT and TNA are two of my. It's awesome they're crossing over because they're two just enjoyable, like, studio wrestling shows. You know, I've said it ad nauseum on the show, but NXT feels like a college campus wrestling league sort of thing. I don't know, man. It's brilliant, and it's just what you said. You know, they're leaning into the black culture, and it's paying off. Like, I don't care what anybody says. This past week, NXT beat Dynamite again because the Big Bang lead-in inflates that number. We know that. Look at the key demo. You look at the numbers are like neck and neck. NXT, probably the whole roster, probably, and I caught heat for this. This is what Eric Bischoff actually retweeted and applauded me for, though. But I caught a lot of people got mad at me too for saying, you know, like, the NXT roster and the entirety of the roster probably costs less than Mercedes Moné contract alone.
Yes.
Or like both, you know, one of the Bucks' contracts alone. And look at what they're doing with this product. You have Swerve as the champion over on AEW. And he's like, you know, the culture and all of these things. We're not seeing it so much. I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's, but we're not seeing them lean into what is clearly working over on this other side of things. And I don't know, just give me your thoughts on that. Like, what the hell is going on in AEW with Swerve, basically, is what I'm getting at. And why can't they figure out what Shawn Michaels been able to what like most of society's been able to like put their finger on the pulse of? Like, what's going on there in your opinion?
I love that Swerve is the champion.
Mm-hmm.
I will always fight for Swerve holding on to that world title, but this is a tale of two different stories. And I'm so glad that Swerve is a world champion at the same time as Trick Williams was the world champion. You could assume he's going to get it back, but Trick Williams is a top star in NXT. Swerve is a top star in AEW. And you're seeing the difference between putting a belt on a black guy and embracing black culture. Those are two entirely different things. Okay, because I'll even say when WWE put the belt on Kofi Kingston, that was a wonderful moment. One of my favorite, if not my favorite moments in the history of pro wrestling. But that was an example of putting a belt on a black guy. They did not make that show about Kofi Kingston. They did not play to his strength on that show. His allies, his enemies did not have anything to do with black culture. We didn't see Kofi in the barbershop. We didn't see any of that. Yeah. Whereas with Trick Williams now, we're in the whoop that era. You know what I mean? We're seeing more black people. We're seeing Sexy Red came to NXT. We're seeing the young OG, who is Trick Williams' biggest ally for now, and they're going to build that feud. And we're seeing
he's so good too.
NXT kind of play to Trick Williams' strength, whether they mean to or not. Sometimes they do. Sometimes it's just an Oba Femi comes around and explodes onto the scene. You know what I mean? So we're just seeing this black culture show where Trick Williams is a champion is representative of the show you're going to see. With AEW, it's funny because you'll watch AEW, and if you watch AEW and you're not familiar, you haven't watched in a while, you'll watch the first hour of AEW, and then Swerve will come on with the world title, and it's like, oh, that's the world title? It's a black guy? Wow, that's interesting. Because this does not feel like a show catered to his strengths. This felt like an indie show until Swerve showed up. Yeah. So Swerve is just kind of out on an island. I think he's being sabotaged in a way. I think AEW is kind of trying, but they cannot get out of their own way in terms of knowing how to embrace black culture. I'm sure they have people there who understand how to make the show cooler, however they can, but they're not doing that. It's just feels like an internet wrestling show, the type of show that Tony Khan grew up watching, like while he was a junior correspondent for The Observer. And I feel like NXT is just getting cooler and AEW is getting colder.
You put it so well there. And for people who are like, oh, well, why lead into it? And it's just like, it's working, dude. That's why you see it over here. It's working. Like, what is there to? They want to talk about the key demo. Well, the key demo's clearly, I don't know. They got it pinpointed in NXT, if you will, and it's mind-boggling to me, especially with the TV deal coming up. I'm hearing in 2 days that's when we'll really know what's up with AEW as far as like TV deal status. I don't know if you like to get into all that, but just your thoughts on, NXT going to CW with all this momentum, and you got AEW sort of like, are they going to get a TV deal? I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I love getting into it. I had a whole documentary, a special report about AEW's TV deal in terms of what I did make a prediction. I don't remember what I said. I think I might have said somewhere around like 80 million. Well, we can look it up a little later, but sure. I think they're going to get a raise. I think it's going to be disappointing. It just all signs point to AEW trying to scramble to get a better number.
Yeah. And
in doing so, they're not doing good viewership. Like the viewership is now under 700,000. They had that disaster number of 500,000 or 500. What was it, like 502,000 or something like that?
Yeah, 502, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. They did not recover from that fully. Like they were exposed as a show that if they don't have that Big Bang Theory lead-in, you see what the audience is for the show, and it's not good. It's funny because I would like to do a study of if you just kind of did a simulation of what would AEW do on average without that Big Bang Theory lead-in compared to NXT. I would mention
it loses every time. It loses every time. And then they tried to be like, oh, well, Black Panther was the lead-in, and it was Juneteenth. And
it's like they're doing the opposite of when NXT's doing. It's like, no, it's Black Panther. It's Juneteenth. It's like they were blaming everything black. It's Dr. Umar's fault. That's what happened.
Oh, man. It's funny stuff. So I took a little vacation. I was gone for a bit. And then over that time leading up till now, I just accumulated like an infinite number of bookmarks and headlines. Alfred, would you like to dive in here with me and just react to stuff for a little bit? Does that sound cool to you? Or
100%, let's do it.
Let's absolutely do it. Okay. So let's dive into Phil Marks, bookmarks. So Here, I'll play a flute too. This is Dave Meltzer's dumb moment of the week, but it's kind of scatterbrained and all over the place. So here we go. We'll play a flute. Okay. I love it. I like Matt Morgan come on. He's like, "Oh, I really want the flute." It's like, dude, this flute's getting over with people. So Blood and Guts is coming up, and Dave Meltzer thinks Team AEW for the Blood and Guts match should be an all-star team rather than the one seemingly. You can see this, right? Okay, good. Yes. Rather than the one seemingly teased on last night's Dynamite of Mark Briscoe confirmed, the Acclaimed and Kyle O'Reilly. I just thought that Team AEW should be a real all-star team, Swerve and Ospreay and Joe type guys as opposed to the Acclaimed. So Meltzer holding his feet to the fire. Tony Khan's feet to the fire a little bit here. I guess you could call it that. But then it was also revealed on this last Dynamite, I guess Swerve is the captain of Team AEW. So I believe it's like Swerve, Mark Briscoe, the Acclaimed, and Kyle O'Reilly. And even Dave saying like this match is great, but you want an all-star team. So Dave also kind of boo-booing it. Your thoughts on that and your thoughts on Blood and Guts coming up? Once an event that I thought was going to put them over the tipping point of like 1.5 million viewers. Pandemic happens. They come back. They never fully recover. And these matches have all just been sloppy shop. And for the most part, in my opinion, but your thoughts on it coming up?
This Blood and Guts is not exciting to me. And this is one of their big shows. And what it feels like is when WWE was in that era where they had, we've got Hell in a Cell coming up. We've got TLC coming up, where it's like, you've had the show planned, but they didn't necessarily build up to a Blood and Guts show through their storyline. They just looked and saw, oh, shit, we got Blood and Guts in 3 months.
I know, we'll turn the lights red. Exactly. Seth will beat him with a toolbox.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel like there's a need for this. And this is another situation where I feel Swerve is being done dirty, because you are putting him on a team that's kind of a makeshift team. They're really not putting AEW over. They haven't done a good job putting AEW over since the start. And it's funny. It's like Tony Khan is not learning from any of the mistakes that WCW made, some of which, yes. But NWO, the gift and a curse of NWO was they were super cool. They were this cool stable of cool heels. But the problem was that they made WCW, which was your bread and butter brand, they made that look uncool. They would have the NWO guys go on TV and say, did you guys come to see WCW? And everybody would boo and say, no, we didn't. And when NWO cooled off, WCW was already cold, so there was nothing to do. And they went downhill. So they're running into that risk with AEW, except the anti-AEW heels, the Elite, are not cool. I think it's a discount version of the NWO. I think they're doing a bad job coming off as cool heels, which I don't think it should be a thing. And I don't think that the Elite are these world beaters who are coming in. It just looks like amateur hour where they're pretending to be these heel authority figures. But at the same time, you have authority figures in AEW. Nobody knows where the power lies. And it's going to lead to this Blood and Guts match where Team AEW, I know Meltzer said that, but you could just look at Team AEW and see these are not the top stars of AEW. The only top star is the world champion Swerve. So for him to be surrounded by mid-carders makes him look bad. And I have a fleeting feeling that Team AEW is going to lose that match.
Man, they probably will. And the story was right there, dude. The story was right there. The Elite beats up all sort of Tony's pillars. Oh, my pillars, they're great. And then it's like a disheveled Tony, like having to assemble guys who don't want to work together or like are maybe resentful towards him for how he's let these idiots take over the company. And then it builds up to this, like, it's all right there. I could write this shit blindfolded, backwards, upside down. I could write this shit. It's just so much storytelling on the table for Swerve to just go, and I'm the leader of Team AEW. Yeah. What? Like, where did that happen? What? Like, and then I believe, the match at Wembley, All In, is Danielson versus Swerve, right? Because he won the Owen Hart tournament. So, like, I never thought I'd go, oh, Danielson, who gives a shit, But that's what AEW's done to people, and it's unfortunate, man. Damn, it's somebody, Conan, send Swerve a lifeline here, because he just shouldn't even be involved in this. I don't know. It should have been like, the champion aligning with Tony Khan, and then they go against the Elite or whatever. But they didn't tell that story at all. It's just been Swerve coming out, cutting promos, and to, like you said, lean into the culture. Like, Swerve raps, right? Why don't we see him in the fucking studio? Why don't we see him like doing shit? You know, he just comes out with a fur coat and talks shit, and then he leaves, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's funny because like I don't have confidence in AEW being able to lean into black culture because it's easy to say, but it's such a hard vibe to catch and to see a show and be like, this is cool. Like, even though it is black culture, it's cool. I'm not saying this, and you know this, Phil, I'm not saying this to be like a DEI person where it's like, we need to be equal.
Yeah.
Everybody needs like representation. Like, I'm saying this because black people are just cooler. Black culture is just cooler. Like, it's just when you watch a show that has been influenced by black people, it's something you want to see. It's something you get influenced by. And that's what AEW needs more of. It shouldn't be this dorky wrestling show. And to your point about telling stories, I completely agree with you in terms of people working together who shouldn't. Because now in hindsight that we've seen Hangman Adam Page, he returned and he lost after 2 matches in a tournament, which is one of the worst bookings of a return I've ever seen. You could have had Hangman Adam Page come back and work with Swerve on Team AEW as kind of like a Sting character. Because Sting, his friends turned on him, and he came back kind of mopey in that crow gimmick, and he became the biggest star of WCW, and he made WCW look cool. You could have done that with Hangman Adam Page instead of what they did.
Nope, but instead Tony's like, we're just going to do it my way, and it's not going to make any sense. So, you know, you talk about free agents, people, you know, the Stephanie Vaquer stuff. I covered that on the last show. We can talk a bit about that. What are your thoughts on Stephanie Vaquer? You know, Tony seemingly fumbling it, and then, you know, HBK swooping in, and Triple H swooping in, getting her on I believe they're in Monterey, like today in Mexico. So they put her right on that card, and people, putting her in NXT, she'll be in the LWO, and I'm sitting there like, even if she is, bro, who gives a shit? But and they're not going to do that. But even if that did happen, like, I mean, is that really such a bad? I don't like WWE's white hot right now. So, anyways, though, Stephanie Vaquer, man, and then also another talent called Delta, who I guess is a big deal in like Australia. I'm unfamiliar. I definitely have seen the name. I've definitely seen the lady, but I'm not familiar with her work. But I guess they swooped in and got this Delta girl as well. So your thoughts on that? Like, basically Tony Khan handed WWE, made this girl look bigger than the biggest paid all-time Mercedes Moné, biggest paid women's wrestler of all time. You know, Vaquer looked better than her, was more over on the pay-per-view with the AEW audience. WWE's been scouting her for a long time, but they just swoop in and steal her, and Tony basically gets her a job and fumbles her. Not that if she signed there, it would have been good anyways, because she'd have been on Ring of Honor in 2 weeks. But either way, though, sorry, your thoughts on the whole Vaquer situation?
I think it's hilarious that she had her WWE tryout on AEW television, and not only AEW television, on AEW pay-per-view. It's hilarious.
Against the top paid girl. Against the former, like, she was a top girl, whether you like her in AEW. Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, was presented as a top female talent in WWE. She comes over, the highest paid, whatever, whether you like her or not. Vaquer comes over, like, looks better than her in that style of match, like whatever they were trying to do. Everybody said it, even the Eric Bischoff said it. But sorry, you go ahead on the situation.
Yeah, I just thought it was unbelievable. It's funny because if you go to my timeline, you go to anybody's timeline after that match, it's like, I thought, and I still think, Stephanie Vaquer, until the main event, which was a great main event, but until that main event, she was the biggest star of the show. And I can still argue she was, even with that main event. And I was just saying, sign Stephanie Vaquer. And I was saying that to AEW. I had no idea that WWE would be in the mix. You know, WWE always wants to sign people AEW is interested in. But because she was on AEW TV, I just figured, okay, so AEW must have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted, which that's a mistake you make with AEW, given how disorganized they are. But I was just like, man, AEW, you look at AEW and the landscape, women's wrestling is going to save AEW. Okay, even though AEW does not know how to book women, they have had this fall into their lap where their big stars are coming back. Britt Baker's back. She's going to feud with Mercedes, which is a hot feud. This Tony Storm, Ryan May thing is a hot feud. You talk about free agency. Like, you look at all these big money free agents, Okada, even Max Casterson on AEW's TV. AEW ruined his career. Whether that's a joke or not, that is a serious narrative that's going on, which I do believe that AEW does not know what to do with one of the greatest wrestlers of our generation. They've ruined his career.
Yeah.
You look at Mercedes Moné, she's starting to get hot now, but again, they spent a lot of money on Mercedes. They spent a lot of money on Will, and they're not getting the returns out of that. They really didn't get Mariah May for that much. Mariah May was a relative unknown from Stardom, and she's been more effective than any of them in terms of the corner. You can say the same about Mina Shirakawa. So she's
amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah, they've been getting more out of these discount free agents, and I mean that with all due respect in terms of what they paid for them, that they are from these mainstream free agents. And I just think that the idea that Stephanie Vaquer is coming to WWE is a huge steal for the narrative in terms of WWE being the cooler place to go. WWE stealing somebody who was just on AEW television from right under their nose, like we used to see in the Monday Night Wars. And I think it's so hilarious. You want to bring in Dave Meltzer in the amateur hour. AEW PR machine is now trying to villainize Stephanie Vaquer and saying she's not honoring her dates and she's not doing as she's told. This is a motherfucking wrestling business, my guy. Like, let's not act like this doesn't go on all the time in pro wrestling and that Stephanie Vaquer has burned her bridges. If you're talented in wrestling, you could burn bridges from here to kingdom come. Okay, those bridges can look like the Harlem Heat logo with all that fire. If you're talented, Jim Cornette has burned every bridge he's ever met, and he's got one of the biggest podcasts in the world because of sheer talent. So I don't want to hear shit about burning bridges and all these dates you're supposed to honor and any of that bullshit. WWE got somebody that AEW should have gotten. She went from AEW TV to WWE, and niggas mad. That's all that is.
It's so true. And like, I called it out immediately. I pointed it out. I highlighted it. I believe on the last live show, I just said, look, the new initiative is Dave is going out there. Matt Morgan was laughing his ass off because I was playing him this clip of Dave saying Mistico's a legit top guy, he's like a true global star. These are the words coming out of Dave's mouth about Mistico, dude. And his initiative right now is getting all the Mexico shit over because now Wrestle Dream is presented as AEW, Ring of Honor, Stardom, New Japan, and CMLL crossover. And that's what the Forbidden Door was the beginning of that. And if you look at the Wrestle Dream promo they have so far, it has all those logos of those different companies in that. And so right now, Dave Meltzer's initiative. So just a bit ago when NXT started beating AEW in the ratings, his initiative was like, Trick is the shits, Trick is the shits, Trick is the shits. He's not good. He was good in this main event, but he's not really good though, you know? And then now the initiative is like, Mystico's a global superstar. And this is what Dave said. He literally said, I don't know how good he drew on this show, but he's a legit global. And it's what the fuck? And now and then it's like burying Vaquer and just because if it just whatever doesn't go Tony's way, and you're gonna see it in this lucha areas where he's really gonna put a lot of stock, like Hechicero being brought in. So the agenda, if you will, is going to be focused on that. And yes, burying Vaquer just like clockwork. It just never ceases to amaze me. So like Natalya was about to be a free agent. It was announced that she actually re-signed with WWE, or they worked out a deal. And then, you see the sickos coming out. Oh, I don't have to pretend to like Natalya. Thank God I can stop pretending Natty and AEW would have been good. Jesus. These people are
just leading into the fact that yes, we are bad faith, and they're the first people to always say bad faith criticism, which
they're
I don't
fucking
have a problem
bots,
with,
bro. They're bots.
But now they're admitting that, oh, good, I don't have to play this role.
It's messed up, man, for real, and that's what most of it is. Like there was some guy going at Eric harshly, and it was just this AEW bot account. And like all the usual suspects follow him, like Mikey Ruckus, and not to call people, I'm just calling this what it is. You know what I mean? And like the no DQ writers and shit all follow this dude. And he's like, I'm 12. Why are you talking to kids, sicko? After he's like poking the bear at Bischoff over AEW, and his profile pictures MJF, and his banners, the Young Bucks and all that. His whole personality is AEW. And it's like, you guys don't understand how this pushes people away from wanting to watch the goddamn show, dude. Like there's people who genuinely want this to, I don't know, I put over the whole Mercedes Britt Baker segment, but then I still, because I laugh at other things, I make fun of other things, you get pigeonholed. And this fan base, man, they just don't understand. Or are they bots working for AEW? Who knows? Tony Khan's getting accused of a lot of that. He's being investigated actually by the FBI, which we'll talk about in a minute. But to me, man, the fan base, it can't be said enough. They push you away. And then to what you were saying with the free agents, they make AEW seem less important than the free agents and even if you want to call them discount free agents, okay, let's say Mariah May's a homegrown, you could consider her that, like what she did in Japan is cool, but let's say she's a homegrown AEW talent. Well, what does it say to those talent when Tony Khan's out there in interviews going, oh, yeah, and we're going to bring in the best free agents and the free agents, and oh, if that WWE guy's time is up, and yeah, I love the WWE guys, and free agents, and the people who work there are sitting there going, what the fuck? Like, Tony should be going, no, I got the best wrestlers in the world. I've been saying it forever. I truly believe that. And here they are. Like, here's who I think you should be watching out for. And this guy, you know, wiggles his dick over here, and I like that. So I'm going to push him really hard. You know, at least, like, stand behind your guys. But he doesn't do that, man. He's just talking all about the free agents. And then as soon as somebody goes, I don't want to resign, people go silent on them. People talk shit. People are talking shit about Penta El Zero Miedo, whose WWE is interested in signing, and they were years ago as well. And with Vaquer, actually, WWE was scouting her. She had a tryout like years ago. And so, I mean, they had their eye on her, but that match was definitely why they swooped in and got her. But Observer says with Penta, all signs are at this stage of his career, he's probably going to wind up going for the best offer. And again, I've seen people trashing Penta. And, oh, Lucha Bros, whatever. He's washed. He's past his prime and all this type of shit. It's so gross, man, because everyone loves Penta. I don't know how AEW didn't make a killing off of like Lucha masks too. You want to talk about black culture? What about the Latin American culture as well that WWE is leaning into, you know? And I don't know. So Penta probably to WWE, and if history is any indicator, Rey Fénix probably not far behind him. Your thoughts on that?
I think Penta to WWE would be a great thing. I think WWE would know what to do with them more. WWE has had kind of a blind spot in that Latin market. There was a time, it was while Rey Mysterio was feuding with Eddie Guerrero, where they were doing gigantic numbers on SmackDown. It was a Dominic Mysterio feud, which, you know, ironically enough, now Dominic Mysterio is doing the biggest numbers on Raw with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley and Judgment Day, and that's a great feud. But I think WWE is better at marketing. And it's funny because AEW has this habit of every single lucha match they have, most of them, they have a spot where they take the luchador's mask off, where they try to go for his mask. It's like become a comical thing at this point. It's like if you watch a lucha mask in AEW, at some point there's going to be a spot where they try to take off his mask. And you're not, outside of their inability to market these masks, you're not going to protect the masks and make them a big deal if you're always trying to rip them off in every match. You know, you got to treat them as sacred, and the AEW doesn't do that. So they really was a waste with, you know, and I will say that there were injuries involved and stuff like that, but the fact that Rey Fénix wasn't pushed up the ladder or Penta wasn't pushed up the ladder, both of these guys, individual and as a tag team, have a certain amount of charisma and are able to work in a way that they can have great matches. You're going to have to get them like an Alex Abrahantes in order to translate, which is just fine. But AEW fumbled the bag heavy with Penta and Rey Fénix if these are their last days in AEW. And I think they'd be great. You know, I don't know if they'd be open to going to NXT, but I'm looking at the landscape of WWE right now, and we're looking at the WrestleMania story is being told. You know, we know a lot of the big players. John Cena's in the mix. The Rock is in the mix. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. Like, it's Gunther. It's probably going to be world champion by then. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. What? It's going to be a very top WrestleMania. So I'm looking at guys like Penta, and I'm looking at Ricky Starks even. I'm looking at Wardlow. And when I look at these guys, I'm not thinking like go to the main roster.
No.
It's about presenting yourself as a big star. The wrestling business is about presenting yourself as a big star.
Larger than life.
Present yourself as a big star so WWE can even look at you and be like, oh my God, we got to elevate him. And that's NXT. I want to see Ricky Starks in NXT. And NXT is a cool show. Like NXT is better than Dynamite right now. You can't look at NXT. Even though it is a developmental brand, NXT is no longer a show where it's like it's not like I'm saying Ricky Starks needs to go to Speed. Like these guys should go to NXT. And if they're in the mix in NXT, that will be a super show. And it'll be a show where guys like Ricky Starks and Penta and Rey Fénix and Stephanie Vaquer can come off as huge stars, big fish in small ponds, and then they can progress to the main roster.
I had Ant Evans on the show actually, and I was talking about it with Matt Morgan, and so because I asked their opinions on this, I'll ask yours. So Ant Evans, he was the guy. He's worked in TNA alongside Scott D'Amore before he was good. Yeah, so Ant was saying that he thinks in 18 months TNA is getting absorbed by WWE in some facet, like it won't even exist or whatever. And Matt Morgan agreed with that, and he's like, yeah, and I think what WWE should do is make TNA like the NXT before the NXT. And then that's where you sort of do that, where you where Triple H was bringing in the indie guys and the Pentagons and that sort of thing. And then, yeah, you do that in NXT. And then you just filter in like those young guys. And then you kind of make TNA like the NXT before the NXT. And if that's the route they go, sweet. But I like this whole sort of, I call it like rotating them out of the territory type thing. Like Natalya just re-signed. She's been teasing a match with Jordynne Grace. We just saw what it did for Trinity Fatu, Naomi, when she went to TNA. She helped elevate their brand, came back now and is doing great work in WWE again. And it's like, why not like have a place like TNA where you can send Natty for 6 months or 3 months to just go like wrestle their girls and then come back and tell WWE who they should be looking out for and who they should, so that, I mean, to me, I like that. In my opinion, I think the Lucha Bros go straight to the main roster, and because Motor City Machine Guns, we'll scroll up here and talk about them next. Speaking of Tony Khan fumbles, the Motor City Machine Guns they just said their farewell last night. I saw it in a video. They were in the Indies there on an indie show, and they did like their tearful goodbyes, and seemingly they've signed with WWE. And I think what WWE's doing is they are going to make a huge play at like injecting life into their tag team division, especially on SmackDown. That's how I feel with DIY and the packages they've been doing and all that. And if they bring in the Machine Guns and then you bring in the Lucha Bros, and then, so Alex Shelley made a post just saying, this past week I celebrated the 4th of July, maybe having my final match at Beyond Wrestling for a while. Drew had me teach a seminar to his students. I wrestled Big Bad, okay. Big Bacan Brad, okay, I'm not Flight Home legend, Billy Mitchell. Anyways, Beyond was the first place. He's just shouting out Beyond, and basically the independents are the lifeblood of the industry. He wouldn't be making this tweet if he was going to AEW or this post, right? Because AEW, he'd still be allowed to do indies and stuff. Like,
yes, this feels very WWE flavored.
It is. So I truly believe they're on their way, and what a better time, right? You put the tag belts on DIY, you bring in Motor City Machine Guns. SmackDown's not going to Netflix right away. Not to diminish Motor City, but I mean, they're not like this huge, like they're going to have to do some teaching the audience on who they are. And your thoughts on Motor City Machine Guns just in general, and then them going to WWE as well and saying, like, even though they have a lot of friends in AEW seemingly, and Tony Khan for surely, like the rumor was, they're walking into AEW tomorrow. That's how everyone made it seem. And then now months later, they're seemingly going to WWE, man. Your thoughts on that?
I will tell you, I know you're saying that you want to see Motor City Machine Guns in WWE on the main roster. That's another situation where I think they show up on NXT TV. If you saw that reaction that the Rascals got, NXT, since I've been watching it, I've been waiting for the Motor City Machine Guns. Like, that is perfect for them. Mm-hmm. And what you could do is, this is a perfect timing for Motor City Machine Guns in that the NXT storylines, one of the storylines is that Axiom and Nathan Frazier, they're going to break up. They're basically doing the Grayson Waller theory. They're doing this thing where Nate Frazier has got his eye on a singles career, and Axiom's like, hey, we're still tag team champions, man. Like, what are you doing? And they've had some miscues in their matches. They're definitely going to break up. So the loss of those titles should come where it's like they get these mystery opponents that Nate Frazier's not studying for, and they overlook, and Motor City comes in day one and wins those titles. And from there, you can build up Motor City Machine Guns as a title. And I think it's a bigger match, and you could build it up as more of a dream match, not only to indie fans, but also people who are following the WWE product. If Motor City Machine Guns dominates as NXT tag champions for months, and you got DIY as champs on SmackDown, on an episode of NXT, you send DIY down to NXT, and that's a dream match for NXT fans.
Bro.
It's a dream match for TNA fans. It's in Florida. It's like the dream match of all dream matches in NXT, and it will beat AEW if you... Listen, I think AEW and NXT are going head-to-head on a day in October. So we are in July right now.
Ooh, that's my birth month. What a fucking delightful treat, and that's Tony Khan's birth month too. Oh, he's gonna have another meltdown on his birthday. Let's go.
Emotional damage.
Oh my God. But dude, you just dropped that's it right there. You just wrote the story. WWE, I know you listening, man. Alfred just laid it out, dude. That's phenomenal. Yeah, that's what it's gotta be. And yeah, they could also play it as like, well, it's part of the TNA crossover because like those guys are synonymous with TNA and Ring of Honor, I guess, but TNA particularly, you know, everybody knows that, or at least the NXT crowd will know that. And then it'll make them look bigger too for when they do go to the, because here's my whole thing. Joe Hendry's going to be in this year's Royal Rumble and shit, right? Like, I mean, come on, there's no way they don't. And the way they've made him look, I don't want to say bigger than he is because he's getting millions of views and stuff, but they put him in NXT. That crowd's like, oh my God, the building shakes. They show the shake camera. And then next thing you know, he's getting WrestleMania numbers, social media impressions and views. And so like, it's not like we're not going to see Joe Hendry show up on like a SmackDown or so. I truly think that's happening sooner than later, just out of the blue. Not saying that they're going to put all the TNA guys on the main roster or any of that, but like at the Rumble, you could get away with that, like a Joe Hendry. So, yeah, just you're right about that. See, I'm thinking I'm hotshot booking. I'm Tony Khan in it. Oh no, we'll just send him. We'll give him the belts first match, like Monet, like Mercedes.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can give them the belts first match if you have a plan in place to have
with
that
a story.
match. So it's not just like, okay, we're going to give them the belts and then we don't know what to do with them. But the plan should be, and I think this would be great if you're looking down the line, you know, baseball, assuming AEW even re-signs with, because this does take some assuming that AEW re-signs with Warner Brothers Discovery, and then they have to preempt for baseball. There will be a date in October where they're going to have to air on a Tuesday. And like NXT to go head-to-head with AEW when they're loading up that show, Motor City Machine Guns versus DIY, if you're going to hold that off till October, I mean, that'll be one of many matches they can do on that same show that will kill AEW.
Man, do you think WWE just loads it up like they did last time? Or
are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, what am I talking about?
Goddamn petty. The reason that they're working with other promotions, I think, is because they didn't want AEW to have trademark on the Forbidden Door. So now it's funny, if you look at the timing of WWE working with TNA and all these other companies, it's right before the build. They didn't even say Forbidden Door on AEW TV. It was like in May, like as they were starting to build up Forbidden Door. WWE got the jump on AEW. So now Forbidden Door doesn't seem like that big of a deal because I'm watching WWE and TNA stars are on there and this is a Forbidden Door.
Yeah, dude, the prohibited portal. So Adam Cole, regarding Adam Cole, because of the complexity of the injury, there's still little time, left out of action, but he hopes, it's not much longer. He is able to walk now, so he's on the way back. Man, I love Adam Cole so much. What a shame he got so badly hurt in AEW. And I don't know, man. The match should have been him and Cole or him and MJF at Wembley, really, but doesn't seem like that's possible. So I just hope he's okay and he has a good recovery. Do you think he makes an impact on AEW when he does eventually return? We've seen him come out and talk a little bit, but it didn't really amount to anything. What do you think?
I don't think so. I would have said yes if MJF was still a babyface and they were still doing the storyline. But Tony Khan's hotshot booking, which I do not think he had a long-term plan for MJF's heel turn. It's weird that MJF just came back as a babyface, and within a month he's turning heel and he's back to being the old MJF after already having this character that was very effective. And the key to the character is very nuanced because it's like MJF is a heel, but he's our scumbag. It's a lot of nuance. So they brainwashed their fans to think that, MJF does all this heel stuff, but he's our scumbag. That's how they booked him as a babyface. So now that he's turned heel and he's playing a straight up heel and he's bloody Daniel Garcia, people are still going to look at that as like, he's our scumbag. So it's going to be harder to book him as a heel. And with Adam Cole coming back, it really screws the pooch on that because Adam Cole turned on MJF. The story was supposed to be MJF comes back as this conquering babyface. And yes, like you said, it's MJF and Adam Cole at Wembley. But MJF's a heel now. You can't really do that feud. Adam Cole's going to come back as a heel. Like, what happened to Wardlow? They were feuding before Wardlow.
Oh, my God.
I don't think it's going to help Adam Cole. It's not going to help anybody.
So speaking of not helping anybody, man, why Daniel Garcia where with the MJF bloody him up angle? Like, couldn't that have been Wardlow even, where they like make up and he's like, look, that devil shit was stupid, let's put it in the past, baby face, like, and he could have even said it because he leans into that shit, baby face MJF and Wardlow, it's what the people want, or so, like he could have leaned in all that. Then he kicks Wardlow in the balls, bloodies him up, and is like, no, like, you've always been scum to me, like, I'm still resentful to you. Like, that would get Wardlow over more. Instead, Tony Khan's like hedging his bets on Daniel Garcia, bro. Do you see it in Garcia? I'll never see it in him.
No, I see it in the dance that he was doing, and when he was being a sports entertainer with the Jericho Appreciation Society. But it's like they're back to making him back into old wrestler Daniel Garcia. And as much as he has impressed me, because I was like you before and even during most of his stint with the Jericho Appreciation Society, I was just like, well, why is this guy getting so much TV time? This is just like kind of another Wheeler Yuta where it's like, yeah, he can wrestle, he can grapple, but there's nothing there in terms of charisma. But when they gave him that dance and he became a sports entertainer, surprise, surprise, he became more of an intriguing character. But he is not at the level of an MJF or an Ospreay that he's being booked at right now. And you can't really tell that story. I don't think AEW can effectively do that in the 2 months they have to book Wembley. Like, Solo Sikoa's in a similar situation, but WWE's done a phenomenal job. They killed Paul Heyman. They had him pin Cody Rhodes. They've got Jacob Fatu in there as his heavy. So he's
did you watch SmackDown?
Solo's Roman, yes. So Solo looks like a bigger star because of all this that's going on. And I think the bloodline is great, but I don't think AEW can do that same thing in heating up Daniel Garcia in a short notice.
So, speaking of like guys heating up and everything, and we can talk about SmackDown a little bit too. But Ricochet is expected to debut in AEW shortly. Do you have any insight on that, or like what are your predictions for that? Do you think he does show up there, or do you think that the sheets are jumping the gun on that? And do you have high hopes for Ricochet if he shows up there? What do you think? No, okay, yeah.
I think he shows up. Like, my gut tells me he's going to go to AEW because that's just a pattern, and you go from one big company to another. But I don't think Ricochet is going to succeed in AEW, and that's no fault of Ricochet. It's just that we've seen the marginal returns diminish with free agents in AEW. We've seen Okada not connect really much as a free agent in AEW. His biggest moment is when he was pretending to be a producer and he said, bitch. And it was really funny, but it's like, is that what you paid for with Okada? To have some funny, silly slapstick gig? Like, we saw Real Ospreay, even though he's having these great matches that Dave Meltzer is going to, on repeat, give 5 stars to, that means nothing. Like, it's not translating to TV viewership. MJF even said that on TV, that Will Ospreay doesn't translate to TV viewership, and he's right, because MJF is this work shoot type of guy. We've seen Mercedes Monday, so we're seeing all these big free agents have a big splash and then kind of wither away. And these are bigger stars than Ricochet. And so for Ricochet to walk in there, I just think at some point we're at a tipping point. AEW's roster is overcrowded. They need to worry about shrinking down the roster and picking 2 or 3 guys to build around. They don't need to worry about bringing in free agents. And if Ricochet comes in, he's going to be another Keith Lee. He's going to be another Okada. He's going to be another guy with a big name who has a big debut and then disappears, gets a belt. They're going to give him the TNT title and he'll disappear. You know, so I don't think if Ricochet is looking at the tea leaves in AEW and he really was a thinking man's type of wrestler, I think he should take the Cody Rhodes route, the Drew McIntyre route, in that you go on the indies and you prove yourself to be a big fish in a small pond so that WWE wants you more. Kind of like what Stephanie Vaquer did. And even though she was in AEW, it's like you prove yourself to be a big fish in a small pond. I think now's the time to do that because both rosters are top heavy. You see WWE, we talked about WrestleMania season, all those big stars they have. You see AEW, they've signed one free agent after another. And I'm noticing, and I've noticed this for a long time, that there's a difference between a businessman and a promoter, which is what Vince was, say what you will about him, which is what Triple H is, and a billionaire. And Tony Khan is a billionaire. And as much as he loves wrestling, he doesn't know when to stop signing free agents. It's give me this, give me that, give me this. It's like he's at a Toys R Us with his dad.
It is. That's what it is.
Down the store for the day, and he's just pointing at everything he wants. Like, he's not thinking about how do I book this guy? How do I bring him in? What stories do I tell so that by the time he's debuting, we have this hot story he can walk into? It's just, oh, look who we got. And then they move on. Because Tony Khan just bids on people. He does not know how to tell their stories and create a build up to their debut and to their existence in AEW. And that's a mistake that they're going to make with Ricochet if he gets there.
What did Jay-Z say? I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman.
Yeah. Exactly.
So Dave Meltzer, he gives Michin Mia Yim versus Jaida Parker the street fight on NXT 4.25 stars. Wow, Dave, actually. Now, this match was phenomenal. I know this happened like a couple weeks ago, but I haven't talked about it at all. I think Jaida Parker's like the future of the fucking NXT right there. You got her and Lola Vice just in the chamber waiting to, and Kalani as well. Is right. The Soul Ruka. Jesus, you could name them all day. And it's just funny to me that I didn't talk about this with anybody yet, but Michin, I don't know if you saw that spot where she dove through the ropes and
hit her face on the chairs.
Clearly, like almost died, but I mean, she's okay, right? The spot was planned for Jaida to move clearly, but Michin almost like had to kill herself for Dave to give women's wrestling any respect. Your thoughts on that?
See black women do well. I don't give a shit about Dave Meltzer's star ratings.
Me neither,
It was a great match. So if I was to rank matches, what I usually do is I'll do some pop culture. I would grade this match on a black women's TV show, and I give it an Insecure, which is a 10 out of 10. So I think this was an amazing match, and they just went crazy, and I just loved it. It's sad that it was on this show. I believe that was on the 4th of July preempted show, or the show that everybody was out for 4th of July or whatever. But this was a show that deserved such a bigger audience. I thought it was such a great hardcore match. Like we got to stop doing this thing where we grade on a curve, because now women are able to have just as good, if not better matches than men. And I just thought it was a great match, a great hardcore match. Jaida Parker, the thing is, she's so wise beyond her years, and she's going to be such a big star. She's had, I think, less than 20 matches in WWE and NXT, and to have the type of match she had with Michin, which shout out to Michin because she led her through it, but there's a lot of nuances to make it look like a real fight when you're in a hardcore match. And if you're somebody who's new to the wrestling business and you have a hardcore match, like I remember seeing David Arquette, who has been around wrestling forever and whatnot, but when he became a wrestler and he was in his early years as a wrestler late in his life, he wrestled Nick Gage, and that should look real because of Nick Gage. And you could tell that David Arquette was like, okay, brother, this is enough for me. So like it takes a certain amount of realism and professionalism to make this look real. And I thought Jaida Parker and Michin pulled it perfectly. And I love the match. I thought it was an excellent match. You know what? I think 4.25 stars is low.
Okay.
I think if that's Will Ospreay and Ricochet jumping into tables and killing themselves, we would have gotten 12 stars.
That's all it is, too. That's what Tony's going to do. He's going to back up the Brinks truck just so he can have Ospreay and Ricochet recreate that fucking match they did in 2017 on AEW TV. But the thing with Jaida Parker is that there's certain people like Joe, he's real. To me, Jaida has that. She's just so real and believable, and everything she says is real. When she challenged Michin to the street fight, like that little quick promo backstage she did in the camera, that shit is so real. You believe this girl, and damn it, it's something that's missing from wrestling all over. That you can say that for even main roster WWE. Some of the people are like, okay, Johnny Gargano for real. You know what I mean? Not hating, I'm just saying. But it's Jada's just real. Like she seems like she'll beat your ass, and everything she says has conviction. And
that's great that you said that. And you made me I'm thinking of people on the main roster now. Jaida Parker, in terms of that, I don't know what Jaida Parker's real name is. I don't want to know. Like, that's Jaida Parker. Yep. She believes it. She carries herself like a Jaida Parker. She seems like a tougher person than most of the main roster people who are trying to convince you that they're going to beat you up. Like that. To your point about that promo, I was just like, oh my God, it's on site. Like when she sees Michin, it's on site. I don't get that from most people on main rosters trying to figure out their character. And that's the hardest thing in wrestling, is trying to figure out who you are as a wrestler, as a character. And Jaida Parker, to have that this early in her career, there's no stopping her. There's no way she's not going to be a star.
Yeah, I've just been bigging her. I was bigging up Lola too early on. I told my listeners, Lola's her. Watch her. I've been following her since her MMA fights. Trust me, man. She's got whatever it is. When I heard she went to NXT, I was like, they got a gem in her. Valerie Lareda. That's I was following her when she was fighting, and I was right about that one. I'm telling you, PWT Universe, Jada's her, man. I'm not the first one to say it, but I'm telling you, man, it's her and Lola are gonna be like the two top girls in that. You know, and Kalani's great too. I didn't get Kalani at first. I thought it was sort of like routine, cheerleader routine. Right. Nah, she's just, yeah, she won me over her last couple appearances. But okay,
I will say something very quickly about the Lola Vice. The thing is with her, and this is the problem that MMA ran into with Paige Van Zandt, is that you have these beautiful women who are very marketable, but they have to win these real fights in order for their stars to really rise, right? Yeah. And with all due respect, like I could never get into like legit fighting and stuff like that. So with all due respect to these women, they just weren't able to win real fights at the level. So they were never able to become these big stars because it depends on them being able to win real fights. Yeah. She's at a huge advantage in WWE, Lola Vice, by being so beautiful, marketable, able to talk, has the dance, has everything. And you could work the fights that she win. You could just script her to win these fights. So the sky's the limit with her. So that's the advantage they have on Lola Vice, and that she would have been another Ronda Rousey had she been able to win fights at the clip that Ronda Rousey did. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to, but now that she's in WWE, I think that they're going to be able to build her into a huge star.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. And the other thing too with Lola is like I think she had 2 fights. She lost one by decision where she was very scrappy, fighting hard, but this person was a wrestler and she's a striker. But her first fight was a fucking nasty TKO where she overwhelmed her opponent. I believe it was a TKO, or she at least dropped her and pounced on her. And, she was hitting her with like wheel kicks and all type of good shit. So that highlight lives there too. And I don't know, man, she's something special. And I see it in Jaida. I see it in Kalani too, man, where I didn't at first. And just I tell people all the time, NXT women's roster division is the future of pro wrestling just in general. I truly believe that. And then speaking of people's beliefs, Jim Ross believes AEW pay-per-views, well, they're too long, kid. By God, this pay-per-view's too long. What do you obviously agree with that, right? I mean, 15, you see WWE gives us the 5 matches, even this SummerSlam. I'd be surprised if they do more than there'll be like 7 or something like that with the pre-show or something. Or maybe 8. AEW, Tony Khan's literally booking matches like as they're on TV on the air, it seems like, throwing matches at people. 15 on the last one. Just your thoughts on that, man.
Okay, so WWE is the industry leader, and they're also red hot right now. So AEW, in trying to counter WWE, does need to exist as an alternative. There's a lot of things that they should do differently than WWE, but with their rosters. But there are fundamental things in wrestling that WWE is doing that is leading to their success and leading to the high viewership numbers they have and whatnot. And one of the changes they've made, I think, is doing less with more. I love the fact that these SummerSlam pay-per-views, WrestleMania Night 1 and 2, they seem like special events because there's only so many matches. Mm-hmm. All these matches come with a huge story. You know, even the Money in the Bank match itself, everybody in that Money in the Bank, with the exception of Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, who just got here, everybody had a story to where I thought this might be the craziest Money in the Bank match ever, because you could get the Wyatt 6 interrupting and screwing Chad Gable. You could get Drew McIntyre getting screwed by CM Punk. You know, you can get Jey Uso getting screwed by the Bloodline all in one match. Like there was, so you can get LA Knight getting screwed by Logan Paul. So there's so many stories that they're able to successfully translate a limited amount of stories onto one card. And that's what AEW needs to start doing. This 15 match pay-per-view, and by the time you're done with the pay-per-view, yeah, I saw some great matches here. I'm not going to remember them. I'm going to remember Stephanie McCord being great because of what happened after. And I'm going to remember that main event they have, but I don't even know how much I'm going to remember that, because by the time they beat Swerve it all in with Bryan Danielson, which I unfortunately think is going to happen, all that will have been washed out. So AEW, they need to learn to focus on what are their big feuds and focusing your pay-per-view on that feud. That's how you sell pay-per-views. Now, if you have 15 matches on a pay-per-view, it's not going to make the pay-per-view special. It's going to seem like a chore.
Not unless you're an indie show, you're not on TV every week, and you're like, look, we're a super indie with a billionaire backing us, putting on a super all-in card once every 4 months. Here's 20 fucking insane matches that you wouldn't see any other time. That's what they should be doing. That's what
Yes.
AEW should be. They'd have and just run indies and not even be on TV. Honestly, it would
I
work
agree,
better
man.
that way.
What you're saying is absolutely right. They're approaching this with an indie mentality, and there are certain things like your wrestling matches, which helped AEW early until WWE appropriated this. Is that your wrestling matches? Okay, they've got an indie mentality, but that doesn't make you different anymore. You now need to learn how to tell the stories with the talent that you have, and you need to be able to monetize your pay-per-views, which. The pay-per-views used to be the solid for AEW, but they're now starting to diminish and erode a little bit because they're too long. There's not good enough stories. A lot of their big stars are hurt, but their pay-per-views just don't seem special anymore. And I liked Forbidden Door. I will say, though, the last hour, even like that John Moxley and Naito match, like I'm a huge Naito. Naito's my favorite wrestler in New Japan history.
I love Naito, dude.
I'm just like, God, like when is this going to be over? Like,
bro,
they need to learn how to condense these pay-per-views. It's ridiculous. These pay-per-views feel like how Tony Khan gets free agents, where he wants all of them. And it doesn't have to do with what AEW is or how he could fit them into his program. It's, oh, you're a free agent? Let's get him.
It's just, it's so, yeah, you hit the nail right on the head there. Okay, so you said something awesome there, just with the talent you have, right? Making them the stars. That's sort of been the through line of this episode of PWT here. Speaking of which, the 4 men on this screen right here.
Yes.
Not necessarily WWE, like, homegrowns, if you will. 3 of these men aren't, of the 4 in the picture. The man leading them is, I tweeted out, we live in a timeline, right, guys, where the Gorillas of Destiny and Jacob Fatu are fighting Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. This is fucking insane, dude. Who would have ever thought in a world we would be here? But these 4 guys, man, people, they've doubted Solo. I said, nah, he will be that guy. I liked his people he can't really no one really gave him a chance. I've always liked his promo work. It's not the best, but it's like, okay, Roman's wasn't either, and they make it work for the way it's booked. Just this whole bloodline situation on this episode of SmackDown was worth watching alone, just for that fucking Jacob Fatu segment, which we'll get to. We'll take a little bit of time here, breeze through this pretty quick, and we'll mostly talk about the bloodline stuff. But these 4 guys, man, everyone doubted it. Oh, I'm not feeling the new bloodline. Solo's boring. And I thought Tama, the way they were booking him, was great. I'm happy they brought Lola in, although it seems that he's not really doing much. He's not even really wrestling or doing much, but that's okay. I'm totally fine with that. The GODs are here. I didn't even expect him to ever come, to be honest. Tonga Lola. And then this man shows up, Jacob Fatu, and just absolutely has the wrestling world buzzing. And just if these 3 right here weren't enough to get you into it, everybody's hyped on Jacob Fatu. And this guy is the future. We want to talk about the future, man. That guy is the future biggest heel, if he's not gonna be in the next year or 2 already in WWE. And for him to come in out of nowhere and need special help and counsel to get his ass in Canada and all this sort of thing, and they're using it as a real storyline, whereas they probably shy away from that in the past, and they're like, no, this guy can't get in the country. Graves, Corey, he's not allowed in Canada, that that whole thing, dude. It's brilliant. This whole storyline, it's reinvigorated. My only criticism is I don't like that Solo's just like, and Roman, you're a bitch, basically. It would have been cool if it was just like Solo sort of running rampant, and then Roman just shows up out of nowhere and is like, what are you doing, little loose? But that's my only criticism. You could call that a nitpick even, whatever. I think we get Roman come back at SummerSlam. No, do you? Is that hotshot booking, or do you? That to me is what
no. That's exactly. This is the thing about WWE. Hotshot booking is like what they did with Tony Storm and Mariah May, where I'm expecting somebody to turn heel. I don't know who, but I want a story first so I can get a feel for, it's going to either Tony Storm gets increasingly jealous of Mariah May and has her clean her dog's shit and just kind of reminds her that you're an underling, hey, I need you to do this shitty commercial for me, and then Mariah May finally built up a head of steam and turn, or Mariah May starts getting a little big for her britches. That don't work for me, sister. And then eventually Toni Storm is presented as a babyface. But what they did is they skipped 2 months of storytelling and they just had Mariah May turn. So now it's dependent on them to tell another story. With this, it's like I thought there was a chance that Roman Reigns could come back at Money in the Bank. The only reason I didn't think so is because CM Punk was there. So it's like you don't want to blow, and John Cena was there, so you don't want to blow all these returns. Yeah. But I fully expect Roman Reigns to come back at SummerSlam because they've been telling you a story in a way that's getting people to chant, "We want Roman" every single week. And I agree with your nitpick in that it's good. Like, it's better with subtlety that he doesn't even acknowledge Roman, pun intended. But at the same time, it's like Roman is such a big part of this story. They're chanting, "We want Roman." You kind of have to address the elephant in the room a little bit so that when he does return, it's like it's a moment that people are ready for. And I love the Bloodline because you know what the Bloodline reminds me of? The Bloodline. Like, they're doing the same exact thing as they did with the Bloodline Network. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They got the twins and the Gorilla of Destiny, right? They got these twins who are just like the Usos. And they're doing this nuance that I love, that's got a little bit of realism to it, is they've got Jacob Fatu as the enforcer. And he comes off as more OP as Solo Sikoa. So all the internet wrestling nerds are watching this like, why isn't Jacob Fatu the tribal chief? It's like, these are fake beads that real people are getting worked up over. Yeah. So they're doing this on purpose, by the way, is that Jacob Fatu is the most powerful person in the bloodline. Just like when Solo Sikoa was the enforcer, he was the most powerful person in the bloodline if you really pay attention. Like, when Roman, he would be like, "Solo!" and everybody would get scared. Like,
his music would
hit, dude. Was the most powerful guy. And there was this little thing that happened that told me that there's going to be a feud between Roman and Solo at the WrestleMania main event. Is Solo was like instructing Roman Reigns to beat Cody Rhodes. He's like, "Come on, get it over with." And Roman's like, "I'm trying." And so it's like Solo is starting to be like the alpha.
And that's intentional. They've been doing it for years. Like, this whole bloodline story, Roman said it. Everything we do matters in this ring. Like, every fucking face, every word we say, it all matters. And it's shown in spades, man. And I agree, dude. At first I was like, see, when I fantasy Mark booked it before Jacob showed up, I was like, dude, you have Jacob Fatu. He's like the flippin' cool guy with Jimmy and Jay, and they bring him into like, he's like a cool flippy guy who can do flips. But no, dude, they brought him in the right way. I was wrong. They brought him in as like the monster heel, and then how did they position? No, he's my enforcer now, and da-da-da. God, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And it's it's just what you said. And I love that it's like the two Tongan brothers with like baby brother Solo. And then on the other side, you'll have Jimmy and Jay Uso, who are Solo's brothers. And then allegedly Hikuleo's coming in. Yeah. That's apparently signed up. And
I don't know how long you can go with this bloodline because people are going to roll their eyes at the idea of a third generation bloodline. But the thing is, like, they're doing this with this bloodline where it's like Solo is the enforcer. Now he's a tribal chief. He got himself an enforcer in Jacob Fatu. And I think, like, eventually if they do another iteration, it'll be Jacob Fatu's the tribal chief. Hikuleo is his enforcer. So now we're saying, like, well, look at this big, tall guy. He should be you know what I mean? So I don't know if they're going to do this in generations or if they're just going to bring all these Samoans in for a big War Games match. But I'm here for generation after generation of the bloodline. As long as it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Dude, yes, and they have Zilla too. Like, I know for sure. Like, he's working in Reality of Wrestling, and and he's there working with Booker and like WWE. He's a WWE guy, like just Zilla's a WWE guy. That's happening, but it's just a matter of like he's got to get his reps in still before he even comes to like NXT or whatever they intend to do with him. And yeah, I'm here for it, man. And like, I'm down with the Aboriginal representation personally. Yeah, man, I'm all the way. I'm one's up, bloodline to the death of me. So I love that. But this SmackDown, man, we can talk about it quickly. We'll review this here. Mia Yim and Nia Jax kicked off the show with a match. However, I believe didn't like Tiffy come out, or it opened with Stratton coming out. Yeah. The Money in the Bank. Bayley interrupts. You know what? Tiffy really stood out. I thought Bayley came off not as strong as she's good, but I felt like Tiffy really shined in this more than Bayley. And then Jax comes out, and I thought she was really good too. She's really stepped up promo-wise, work-wise. And then she had a match with Mia Yim, and Mia Yim's this girl who's floating around just like having good matches. She's just the solid hand, the good sister, if you will, floating around. So I'm down. I like it. And this match was okay. This guy gave it a C+. We're using Bleacher Report. Is that offensive to you? Should I be using Forbes or?
I mean, you should be using Forbes, but you should be using Alfred Konuwa. I actually used to work for Bleacher Report, so it's all love there. Before I left for Forbes, so it's all in the family, I guess.
Yeah.
But I thought the funniest moment of SmackDown was when Nia Jax called Bayley BBL Bayley.
Yes, that's what I was. Yeah, BBL Bayley.
Internet meme for years, Bayley's booty, and I'm new to that, like, because she would wear gear that would kind of hide her booty, but sometimes she'd be in like street clothes, and so the fact that Nia Jax addressed that was very funny.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. Here's the thing about Tiffany Stratton. This is something people are going to forget about Tiffany. As much of a character as she is, as good on the mic as she is, and she's, when all is said and done, she's going to probably be one of the best promos in history because she just knows her character so well. When she was NXT Women's Champion in NXT, I watch NXT every week, but at that time I was covering the shows for Wrestling Inc. and I was doing a podcast. So I was really, really paying attention to everything that happened. And she was not a good promo. I don't know if it was she was nervous or having to carry promos by herself in a live audience arena. She showed some flaws there and she struggled. And she was not women's champion for very long. And I don't want to say that's why, but she was not women's champion for very long. And I consider her run as women's champion in NXT as somewhat of a disappointment. So I was a little nervous seeing her with this Money in the Bank. Okay, you got to start out SmackDown in front of 10,000 people cutting a promo by yourself. How's this going to work? And I thought she knocked it out of the park. I thought, she did a great job. And I think the story you tell here, I think it's going to be the best story possible. And I hate that they already gave away tensions between Nia and Tiffany. But the thing that you do is you have Nia beat Bayley, and the story is Nia and Trish and Tiffany Stratton are a team, but Tiff has got this briefcase, and Nia's got the belt.
Yeah,
and it's like, when's she gonna cash in? What I would love to see, not to finish big too much, but like months. You have Nia with this belt from now until the Royal Rumble, and you work something out to where Tiffany Stratton comes to the ring with Nia Jax supporting her. And something happens to Nia, and Tiffany cashes in during the Royal Rumble. Like, if you can work that out somehow, it would be great.
That could be cool, yeah, because we've never seen that too. That's unique. I like that. I like that you fantasy mark book that, man. You've been killing it today with those, dude. For real. You got to write for them. They got to WWE. You got to be listening. You got to hire this motherfucker. You got to hire me too, though. But this guy first.
We got to come in a package deal.
Yeah, no doubt. But do you want to know why I use Bleacher Report? Because they're owned by like Warner, are they not?
Yes, they are.
So there you go. So I expect the bias. Like I want to use my opinion. That's why I did it ever since the start of the show. I used to use this other website, but it was, I don't know, they weren't getting their things up on time, their reviews. And so I'm like, if it's biased towards WWE, I'm going to call it out and shit. You know what I mean? So that's why I always go to Bleacher Report. But yeah, maybe I should have used Forbes. Next time you come on, we're using Forbes and Alfred Konuwa.
Bleacher Report is fine too, but
yeah. So one of the stories going on throughout the night is like Chelsea Green's waiting backstage for Nick Aldis. What did she call him? Nicholas Prickles. And then LA Knight comes out of the office at some point. He comes out, cuts a promo. Later, it was pretty solid. But we had Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews versus Angel and Berto. And I thought this match was better than I thought it was going to be when I heard Crews and Corbin were going to be teaming together. What was your thoughts on it?
I'll tell you what, the match was more over than I thought it was going to be, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much these fans were into Baron Corbin. They were "Let's Go Corbin" chants. They did that great spot where Apollo Crews yeeted Baron Corbin over the top rope onto Legado del Fantasma. I mean, these unfortunately are two teams in an era of WWE that's so hot. It just stands out that much more when somebody isn't as hot or isn't involved in some long-term storyline. And unfortunately, these four, Legado del Fantasma, even with Santos Escobar, who WWE had high hopes for, they're really not in the mix. And it's unfortunate because all these guys are talented, but you're going to have points like that where they're just not going to be in the mix. But it was good to see them on TV, and it was even better to see fans care about this match so much.
Yeah. I think they fucked up by not having these Berto and Carrillo in the LWO because like their grandfather, I believe it was their grandfather, was I think it was their grandfather or their uncle was legitimately in the LWO in WCW. And so
wasn't it Hector Garza?
Yeah, Hector Garza. Yeah, that's who it was. Was that their grandfather? I can't remember.
So I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure that's him.
Yeah, so either way, so I thought these guys should have been in it for sure. So the fact they like swapped the Legado guys with these dudes, I don't know. I thought that was weird, and I think I don't know. That's just me personally. I would have had these dudes in it because I think these two, Berto and Angel, I think are like the most slept on team. To me, they would be in the mix. Like, yeah, they'd be doing jobs, but they both can play heel and babyface, and I think they're so underrated. But hey, I don't know. That's
I think especially Angel is underrated. I think WWE fumbled heavy with Angel when he was in NXT.
It was
you
amazing.
could argue there was a point in time where he was the biggest heel in NXT, but then he became the biggest babyface because he'd do this thing where he'd wrestle in pants and he'd build, and then he'd rip the pants off and people would go crazy. And I was just thinking that is such a main roster gimmick that there's no way WWE could screw that. And they now he just comes out.
They even did the proposal thing, man. They had his girl come out and he proposed to her in the ring and stuff, dude. Like, so they had this chip stacked on him, but I think that Vince era really just threw a lot of shit off, man. That's all it was, when he was usurping the power. Yeah, they're trying to kick me out. They found my text messages, unfortunately, but I brought you a kitten. I don't know if you. Anyways, though, so Blair Davenport and Naomi. Is it just me or is Blair like not trying? LA Knight, that's a good problem. Sorry, Blair. She just seems like she's not doing the damn thing like she was before on the main roster, and I'm not really into this whole Blair Naomi situation. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's just something that's coming out of nowhere. It's giving Naomi something to do. It's giving Blair a purpose. But this caught me as it was giving. We drafted her and don't know what to do with her. And they did all they could with her with that video package. But the thing is, it's like she was victimized by that. This happens to one wrestler a week. And I wouldn't wish this on any wrestler. But every week on WWE TV, whether it's Raw or SmackDown, there's somebody who you give them a video package or whatever. They go into the ring, but then they go and air like 5 or 6 backstage vignettes, and they say, "Oh, WWE's coming to New York," and this, that, and the third. And then like 10 minutes later, it's like, "Oh, by the way, we've got Blair Davenport. She's just waiting in the ring."
Looking at the screen.
So it's hard for the building to care about somebody where it's like they know that this person's just been standing around. They cut their music off. They're just waiting around. They're doing jumping jacks, and then finally it's time to wrestle. So I think she was victimized by that. But to your point, it didn't feel like she had much of a purpose on this show. She's very talented, Bea Priestley. She's not like a traditional developmental type. She's just as good as any wrestler on the card. They just need to find out what to do with her. And this dark and creepy stuff, like they're trying this with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, and it is not working. And I feel like they're going that same direction with Blair Davenport. They're trying to do this with Tatum Paxley, and it's not working.
I know.
I love Winnie Chu, but I don't think it's working that much with her. So either you make them all one big stable or something, or you just try to, they're doing it great with the Wyatt Six. So whatever, like maybe it's Rob Fee. Maybe you get Rob Fee in here and have him control all these dark and creepy storylines. But it is not working for the majority of women and people that they're doing this with.
Yeah, just there's too many like, oh, I'm dark and spooky and sexy girl. Like they tried to do it with Thea Hale when she was with JC Jane for a second there, and they abandoned that. I was cooking that on my on PWT Podcast. I was like, that's bullshit. Thea Hale's good because she's not like that. She's unique in her own way, and they're just gonna make her the bad girl, Sandra D or whatever. And they did it with Julia Hart and Sky Blue over in AEW. You see it everywhere, man, and it's just like enough already. Put them all together. And here's the thing: I like Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. They're like the witches that'll lure you into the forest at night, and they're dancing around a cauldron and shit. That movie Witch or whatever it's called. That sort of thing. So I'm into that, but put them all together, make it like a coven of witches or whatever. They do it in TNA, they make it kind of work, but either way, I'm not trying to bury Blair either. I'm not into this.
I wouldn't discourage them for trying. It's great that they keep trying these spooky gimmicks, but it's like blame the Undertaker, because the Undertaker works so well, and you could argue he's the greatest WWE character in history. And it's a spooky supernatural gimmick that if you don't suspend your disbelief and you look at it for what it is, it's ridiculous. But Mark Calloway made it work so well that it became an iconic character. So that's what WWE is going for every time they do this. And you've just got, it's like what Eminem did to white rappers. Like
they gave him all faith.
Like Eminem, he came out with The Death of Some Shady, which I thought was a great album, and I love Eminem. But it's like because of Eminem, and Eminem will tell you this, you come out with this legion of white rappers where it's like, yeah, you'll get a Jack Harlow, but then you'll get an MGK, and you'll get all these other injured MGKs.
You get an Asher Roth thrown in the mix, an Asher Roth,
yeah, Asher Roth.
Yeah. Oh, man. Shit. DIY, though, we were talking tag divisions before. Obviously, there's some dissension between A-Town Down Under. They're going to feud. Austin Theory, they're going to turn into the babyface. And DIY got those straps. And WWE, they uploaded or whatever. I don't know if it was on X. And then it was also, they aired it on the SmackDown before Money in the Bank there. This like great package, like hyping up the tag teams and what they mean to the history of pro wrestling and WWE in general and the lineage of these titles and and then they put them on DIY, who could, in my opinion, because these guys can have a match with any team. Now, I loved your fantasy mark booking. I loved it earlier in the show. However, I think the reason these two have the belts, name another team they could fight right now. Oh, the Authors of Pain, is that what we're gonna get? Like, they even won a match? What's another team? Now this team's breaking up, and Theory, A-Town Down Under, yeah, they're a good team, but they were kind of just a thrown together. Here's two NXT guys that were called up. That they're both like cocky, arrogant type dudes, but I do like the team. I like them together, Waller and Theory, but let's be honest, they're kind of two singles who were put together, I think they put these tag titles on Ciampa and Gargano, who get a miscommunication. They defend them in a whatever match. But because I think Motor City's coming in, and I think Lucha Bros are coming. I think they're going to make the next initiative is we got to bring back tag team wrestling. That's my opinion personally. I don't have any insight on that, but that's what I'm foreseeing. DIY are the team that can have a match with, if Motor City are going to just debut randomly, they could have a good match with, it's not like Ciampa and Gargano touch them a bunch, but they don't have to touch anyone a bunch to have a good match. That's my opinion on it, dude. But you are right about the Fraser Axiom thing. So I'm torn now, but that's my prediction
is very valid. Your opinion is extremely valid in terms of I completely agree with it, because look who's booking the product is Triple H. And when he was booking NXT, I would argue he was more focused on the tag team. Like some of the best matches in NXT that you were not able to follow were the tag team
Alpha
matches.
Academy.
They had Alpha Academy. They had the Street Profits. They had DIY. They had FTR, who was a revival.
Enzo and Cass.
Enzo and Cass is one of the greatest tag teams, main roster or not. Like that's one of the greatest tag teams that ever existed. If you looked at how they booked them, they had the
Ascension. The Ascension.
Yes,
Fuck, man.
Exactly. And
let's go.
They
Wyatt family started there. Wyatt family started there. Like tag team acumen aside, but like they were a good faction. They were a team. Like
the Vaudevillains. They had.
Oh
and these
my
were
god!
Tag teams. These were like coordinated. It wasn't like Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin, where it's like, they're both bald. Let's put them in a tag team. It's like these guys are coordinated. Like these are two characters that play one character as a tag team. And so Triple H, you could see his booking, and it's my booking is fantasy booking, and who knows? It's a lot of our fantasy booking doesn't come true. Let's just be honest. That's why it's fantasy booking. But I completely see that like Motor City Machine Guns coming in and really defining that tag team era in WWE. Yes, I can absolutely see all these tag teams coming in and Triple H making the tag team division a big deal.
And that's how you pitch it to Motor City. Like, guys, we'll bring you in. Here's a good amount of money or whatever. We see the value in you. Look, you have office jobs when this is done, probably a Hall of Fame induction, and neither of you are going to be world champ, but you'll take our new WWE tag titles and you will be the fucking people who usher in the two vets who help carry in this new alongside DIY and alongside. I'm not saying the Lucha Bros, that's a stretch, I know, but hey, and I don't know. You have Ethan Page and fucking Josh Alexander, who is like backstage at Heatwave, the TNA, the North reuniting in WWE somehow. That's a main roster tag team if I ever heard of it. So I don't know. I'm just fantasy mark booking too here, but all I'm saying is they just gave DIY the quick defense, and these guys are broken up, and this is the only other real team. So who the fuck's going to come in and fight these guys? The Authors of Pain, it can't just be them. They're pretty much a glorified job team. So fucking and then isn't New Day over, or who's on Raw? That's what I'm saying. There's no fucking teams. Yeah. It's got to be the Motor City Machine Guns.
The New Day's there, but they're kind of teasing that the New Day is going to split, which I really don't think is going to happen, or at least if it does, it's not going to be a long-term thing. But yeah, they've got some teams on Raw, but they definitely have to build this back up because WWE in getting hot, everything got rebuilt. Everything got a new coat of paint and became hotter. NXT got hotter. The men's division got hotter. The women's division got hotter with all the stories they were telling with Damage Control. And the tag team division main evented WrestleMania for the first time since WrestleMania 1. So everything got hot. But if you were to argue one division that has kind of fallen off, it is the tag team division.
Yes.
Like they are kind of trying to rebuild that. And I think they're in the midst of that.
Yeah, I agree. And again, just to add a little bit to what I'm saying, now maybe I'm completely wrong and you're right about the NXT thing, because what happens is after the fucking match, we spend so much time on it, but Jacob Fatu comes flying out, body check, his flying body move, beats down the tag champ single-handedly, and he comes out and starts hitting his Arabian press fucking flip move, the springboard Arabian press moonsault or whatever. He hits that on Gargano. And then he pulls Ciampa to the middle of the ring. I swear to God, the guy's fucking not three-quarter. I'm just being exaggerative, but he's like 60% across that goddamn ring. Jacob Fatu does that springboard moonsault. The whole crowd, you see motherfuckers with hands on their heads. Yeah. You see kids just terrified looking at this dude like, what the fuck? Just go back. I watched that shit probably 15 times. Rewound it, played it again probably 100 times, just this beatdown segment. And I was looking at the fans and there's people like when the Undertaker, the motherfuckers are like, what the fuck is this guy? There's kids like who just are sitting there like, I don't know, man, expressionless. Like I don't want to say like when the Undertaker came out, but damn near, they're like, this guy's crazy. Like, who is this guy? And they don't even fully really know who this guy is yet. He's only appeared a handful of times. Man, is he making an impact? He looks better than ever. Jacob was a guy who, when I was watching him before, I was sitting there thinking like, man, he's got a lot of wear and tear on his body by the time he's getting to WWE for all the crazy shit he's done. No, he got himself in the best shape ever. And they attacked the tag champs. Why? Because in my opinion, also, you got the GODs there, but it seems as though Loa's not really wrestling. I don't know what's going on with that. Is that like a body thing? He kind of was done in New Japan. Everyone was like, no, he's done. Like, he isn't really. So
I just love Tangaloa, but like there's like you can't just go off memes and stuff like that. But there is like a thread that of him just kind of being on another page with somebody or being slower, and like he had that unfortunate moment where he low blowed Kevin Owens in the butt and had to do it again. But like I think the Gorillas of Destiny can still work. He doesn't seem I wouldn't say he's washed, but I think that they can work as a tag team in WWE, and there will come a time, probably sooner rather than later, where the Bloodline is going to start winning titles and you're going to put all the belts on the Bloodline.
Well, I think that's going to happen soon. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely. No, 100%. And to your point about Jacob Fatu, like not only did he hit that moonsault 60% across the ring, like he almost missed Ciampa. Like he hit the moonsault. Don't get me wrong. But he could have gone further. Like he hit Ciampa with the top of his body doing a springboard moonsault 60% across the ring, and people immediately started chanting, holy shit. Like there is just a different energy about this guy where he doesn't sell a goddamn thing, nor should he. And I think the fact that a lot of people, we know who he is because we follow, I see him at GCW when he comes to LA and we watch the indies and stuff like that. But the fact that people don't know who he is and he is dominating people like Randy Orton helps him, to where it's like, who is this guy? Like this is like you think he's invincible because you don't have any point of reference. It's not like why is Jinder Mahal beating up Randy Orton? Like he hasn't been ruined. It's like this stranger who's coming in and killing everybody.
Dude, and like the height he got on the springboard where he did the fucking the best moonsault ever. Dude, the height as well. Like dude was 20 feet in the air. God, he was 20 feet in the air. I swear, we measured it. Yeah, but like, dude, just. you couldn't ask for like a better debut and all of that. But I think what it's going to be is Tama Tonga and Jacob are going to win those tag belts. But we're obviously going to get a GOD's Usos match. I've been making that match on 2K games for the last like 5 years. So we're about to make that happen for real.
I got to come on here. We got to do some simulations then, in terms of you do the AI simulation of God versus the Usos and see who wins.
Yeah, dude, we got to do that. But ultimately what happens is Cody Rhodes comes out. He says he's willing to defend, or like Solo comes out, whatever. They stand over the tag champs. I'm sure we're going to see the belts. I don't want to see them get juggled around, but I'm sure this is why they attack the tag champs, right? Like the Bloodline are going to get these tag belts. And maybe I'm wrong about them injecting the life into the tag division, but I think we're on to something with that, Alfred. You and I will catch up again and update the good listeners on it. But either way, Cody Rhodes comes out, and earlier in the show, Randy Orton's sitting there and he's like, yo, and he's backstage with Cody and he says, look, the Bloodline are gunning for you. I know I'm going to stay back here, but like whether you like it or not, I'm going to come help you if they try and fuck with you. And after this story's all done with your journey with the Bloodline, a lot of people are going to be gunning for that belt, and I'm going to have your back then too. And Cody's like, I appreciate you. It's good shit. Yeah, good shit, pal. And then Orton, Cody comes out. The Bloodline, of course, start beating him down. Orton comes out. He starts beating them up. Of course, Jacob gets the upper hand. He's the monster. He starts taking everyone out. They do Orton the way they did Paul Heyman. They powerbomb him through the table. But while they do it, they like tied Cody in the ropes before, and he's draped like, I don't want to say like his arms are draped in the ropes like crucifix style, you know, and he's trapped there and forced to watch Randy get power bombed. And then the show goes off the air with the camera on the Bloodline, who are standing on the outside of the ring with the ones up and Cody tied up in the ropes, and just a phenomenal picture perfect visual to go off the air. Makes me want to see more of the show. That's the other thing, not to bring it to AEW, but it's like fucking the show will go off the air and the dude's like, oh, he's like getting up still or whatever. You know what I mean? And this is like a great visual, like the impression leaving me wanting more, and just another phenomenal segment. And the Bloodline are taking every single person out who's gonna help Cody. You have a feeling, you know, John Cena's talking about 40 dates. I don't know when they start, but I mean, he's got, you know, Solo beat him last time, so maybe he gets some too. Who knows? But I'm just so happy with all of this. I can't wait to see what they do. Even when the Bloodline story and Solo, people were saying, oh, it's like taking a dip or like a curve. To me, I just say it's ebbs and flows of storytelling. Not every episode can be the best episode. You know, not every episode can be the season finale. Not every episode can be, you know, like fucking, what's a popular Simpsons one? I don't know. I don't watch that shit anymore, but you get what I'm saying. Even the ebbs and flows I've enjoyed, and I just enjoy the story so much. The shot to end it was awesome. The SmackDown was decent, but I just think the Bloodline stuff is enough to carry it all through. And just Jacob, lasting impression. Your thoughts on just the beatdown and basically what are your predictions, I guess, for SummerSlam while I have you here? Like, we're getting Solo Cody, you know, what do you think like we're looking at leading into it and coming out of SummerSlam basically?
You know, I think I love the main event angle. I love the Jacob Fatu involvement, and I even love their long-term storytelling of Randy Orton backstage. Like, hey, when these guys start coming for that strap, I'll have your back. It's like, yeah, right. Yeah. No, you'll be the guy. Like, Randy Orton's definitely the next time we see Randy Orton, because he just laid him out. He's probably going to take a nice little vacay, which is weird because I thought Randy Orton versus Cody would be the SummerSlam match. It's clearly not. But I do think Randy Orton's going to come back and he's going to turn on Cody. And I think Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes is going to be the match in Survivor Series for the WWE title. And then they're going to do the Bloodline War Games. They kind of, if you're looking at, I don't know, they could make Solo the champion. I'm not ruling out Solo winning because they've heated him up. They've done a great job with him. And I love the fact, and this is something that AEW struggles with, is that now there's legitimate doubt of, like, I could see Solo Sikoa becoming world champion.
I know, it's crazy.
You know, you could use that to have him feud with Roman for a little bit, and maybe that's your world title match. I don't know. Because The Rock versus Cody Rhodes, A, doesn't need a title if it's a WrestleMania match, and B, they could compete for the People's Championship. So, like, I don't know. But I see Cody Rhodes beating Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam. And but I just think that they've done such a great job building up the Bloodline that it's going to be Cody versus Solo at SummerSlam, and I think Cody's going to win. And then Roman Reigns is going to return either to cost Solo the match, or the thing about Roman Reigns returning at SummerSlam, it's like maybe they do put the belt on Solo. He's celebrating. He's got the bead and the belt, and you all of a sudden, ladies and gentlemen, and so Paul Heyman comes back and he brings out Roman Reigns.
How many weeks till SummerSlam, dude?
Like a couple of weeks. It's August 3rd.
Yeah, it's like 2-3 weeks, right?
Yeah,
2 weeks. 3 weeks. Oh man. Do you think Heyman comes back that soon? That's what I'm worried. I'm like, is it too soon? Like, do we get Cody in the Avengers versus the Bloodline, the new Bloodline at this War Games, and then they do the Bloodline versus Bloodline next year? Or do you pull the trigger now? If it's me, I'm pulling the trigger now, dude.
Me too.
You don't know about next
how
year.
hot this Bloodline, like the level that they've gotten, and it's funny because I say you don't know how hot they're going to be, and they've been able to keep them hot for 2 years running. You know what I mean? Or even longer than that, because that's those two WrestleManias with the Bloodline. The Bloodline was already hot WrestleMania 38. So 3-4 years of Bloodline's been red hot. So yes, they can keep this going, but you know, you don't want to always just kind of rely on the Bloodline. If it's hot right now, and you've got Jacob Fatu and you've got Roman Reigns, who's really got one foot out the door. Roman Reigns is going to transition into Hollywood sooner rather than later. So I think you've got everybody there. You've got Jimmy Uso ready to return. It's November is a couple of months away. That's still long-term storytelling to where I think you do the Bloodline War Games. You could do it this year. You could do it next year too.
And yeah, so that was our review of SmackDown and kind of predictions of SummerSlam. And Alfred, man, I want to thank you so much for coming to hang out with me, dude. I appreciate it so much. I know you're a busy man, killing it, and interviewing the likes of Dijak and doing the damn thing. And I just appreciate you so much. I have such a blast hanging out and talking with you. I could talk with you for hours and hours and hours, certainly. So why don't you let the good folks know like what you got going on and where they can find you, and plug anything you need to plug, my good friend.
Sure, you can check out my SmackDown report on Forbes, where I write a lot of articles, the Dijak articles there. The Dijak video interview is on Pro Wrestling Bits, my YouTube channel. We just passed 23,000 subscribers, so thank you everybody, and keep it coming. I'm going to have a lot of videos dropping. Just dropped a Dave Meltzer video. I wouldn't call it a Dave Meltzer video. It's about Tony Storm and Mariah May and his thoughts on that and why he's wrong. I also have a Will Ospreay video on there about him being the savior and the story getting out that he somehow volunteered to lose whatever. So just Pro Wrestling Bits on YouTube, Forbes, Alfred Konuwa, and very soon, this is a scoop that you're going to get. I've been doing this bit, the Wheel of Excuses. Of when AEW's numbers are down, they always have excuses. So we do this virtual bit. I just bought myself a real Wheel of Excuses, and there will be on this. It'll be on my stories. Check my stories on Instagram at @Konuwa. But I will be incorporating a legitimate Wheel of Excuses. We will be spinning this wheel legitimately the next time AEW screws up in the ratings and they have an excuse. So a lot's going down. So just follow me everywhere. I'll have my comedy dates posted. I'll be in Burbank in the main room tonight, 9:30. But I'm at the Flappers a lot in Burbank. So come by if you're in LA. And it's been great, man. I love talking to you about wrestling. We should do this more often.
I know. We should do something too. We should we'll do something maybe where I do like a phone in or something, and I do my Conrad or something like that. Maybe. Oh, come on now, Alfred. That's not very fair. It's not good how you criticize AEW. But yeah. Thank you so much, man. You're the shit. And guys, go and check out Alfred's stand up on his Instagram. I don't know, you're posting clips and they're great. I get a good laugh out of them, and you do incorporate wrestling shit in there time to time. And I went back and I watched your appearance on Kill Tony. I was DMing you that, and it was so good, dude. It was so good, and
I appreciate that.
Bill Burr was just
salty, man. At the time.
And Bill Burr was so salty, dude, on that show. It was the infamous episode where Bill Burr wasn't having none of basically the Kill Tony vibes, and you came in and crushed. I thought so. It was, and you crushed the interview portion. So
yeah, the interview went very well too. Yeah. It was a fun night. I'll always remember that. But yeah, Bill Burr Bill Burr's known for that. Goes on people's shows and he puts them in their place, and he definitely did that to Kill Tony, to Tony Hinchcliffe at that night.
Just amazing. So yeah, at This Is Nasty and at Pro Wrestling Bits on YouTube. And guys, you know where to find me at Pro Wrestle Times. We just surpassed 1,000. We're at like 1,100 on the secondary channel there, where I upload the long form stuff. The Clips channel, the main channel, is at like I think around 4,000. We're at like 3,800, I think. So thank you all so much for that. I'll give you guys a big yeah. And yeah, this has been Pro Wrestle Times. I'll see you guys in the Upside Down. Peace.